I'd like to ask if you think that screenwriting can be taught, as you're kind of against formulas. But can it be taught, and if so, what part of or what aspect of screenwriting can be taught?
Can be taught. Yes. Right? By Robert McKee, none.
Zero. No, but by you, let's say.
By me. Well, I hope I'm teaching you. I mean, this is the best way that I could do it in terms of teaching any young person about screenwriting. And obviously, you see my way is different. I will tell you the truth of my experiences, and I hope I have, told you where they come from and how it comes together. I don't believe in paradigms, and I don't, obviously. And I don't believe in having set rules that you find in all these bullshit books that are written by so-called screenwriting teachers, right? I believe that. I do believe in treating this like a writer's seminar, where you have its work. For example, when I was in college, I was in a writing seminar, and I met a writer named Jack Matthews who had written 6 books that I liked. And Jack's way of teaching us mostly was to take the class down to a bar each Wednesday night, buy everybody beer for 3 hours, and leave. And I think I learned more from him with that than I did with any other creative writing class that I had. So I hope that underneath the levity and the jocularity, we are having fun. But I hope that you learn something at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think, again, going back to Joe's background, and I think that can be taught very clearly, is journalism. And I think that gives you a very solid starting point for screenwriting. And you can develop from there, whether it's books that you write or people that you talk to, or just telling stories. I think that's the real key. If you can tell a good story, you can write it down well, then you got it.
I think it really is a God-given talent, and you can get practical hints, and I think you could be moved in a certain direction, but fundamentally, bottom line, it's a gift that McKee doesn't have. Okay, and that's not. I like that.
It's like a singer having a voice. You can be taught singing, but only so much. There was some other questions.
Yes, my first question is, how can we imagine your working process? Which part is the easier or the first for you, the dialogue part or the description part?
Let me understand your question. Which part is easier for me?
Which is the first when you start to write?
The description of the screen, or do you have the dialogue already?
Oh, you mean like the actual scene? Yeah, I describe, but I don't describe at great length. Because if you start describing at great length, you're almost moving toward a novel, right? And also, in terms of the visual descriptions, so much will depend on where it's shot that I want to give an idea of what I see as a visual description. So I describe what we call the business, is the descriptions and the action, and then I go with the dialogue. And most of 120 pages or less is going to wind up being dialogue, if you go on and on with that, that's where you find scripts like my first draft of Fist that are 400 pages long, because some idiot decided to describe everything as though he's writing the great American novel. Right? So I would suggest to you to keep it trim and to keep with the dialogue.
Thank you. My second question is, and I'm really curious about your opinion. What do you think about Stephen King's works? What do you think about his characters and his working style? Because I think he is one of the most talented character creator today.
Yeah, Stephen is. Yes, he is. I agree with that. He's almost he's an industry in himself, clearly, and the percentage of the stuff that's really good is very high. And I think as time has gone by, his literary reputation has increased more and more. And I have the greatest respect for him. Not, of course, as a screenwriter, or as a film figure, but as a novelist, you know, with the power of what he does.
Thank you.
Do you have anything on your cheat sheets that we've left uncovered?
Yeah, we don't want to spoil tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot of questions that covers the writing process and the rewriting and the dialogue, so let's keep it for tomorrow's sessions.
Any other questions here tonight? Yes, there's one.
Ez is magyarul lesz. Egy provokatív kérdés. Tényleg büszke arra, hogy egy emberrel, akivel beszélt telefonon, a túloldalán meghalt a másik ember, hogy sikerült annyira felidegesíteni azt a bizonyos filmrendezőt, ha jól emlékszem, hogy meghalt a túloldalon.
Are you asking if I'm proud of having done that?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. So when you write a dark character, you at home, perhaps maybe your wife knows better, you yourself become a little bit darker.
My wife becomes darker.
She?
Yeah, I do. And you answer the question. Go on. I do, right? I mean, be careful, but you know.
Be nice.
He does. He disappears into his work, and I have to remind myself. He was writing. I think it was the John Gotti script,
Gangland, yeah.
Gangland. But everything I said, he would have this sarcastic answer, and we were newly married. And finally, I said, typical woman thing, "Are you mad? Did I do something?" And he said, "I'm writing," but I had never really experienced him writing. So I learned to ignore that because it's very quick and sarcastic, and as soon as the script is done, he goes back to who he is. But I think we had 4 babies in rapid fire, and I really think he learned to compartmentalize more of that.
No, you had 4 babies in rapid fire.
He knocked me up 4 times.
Oh. Yes.
Very fast. And
yes.
I think he learned. I think it softened him somewhat.
It didn't soften me. It did not.
I think it did. I think it softened him because he does compartmentalize more. But I can tell if he's writing something funny or something dark or something violent by his demeanor during that time. I can always tell. And he does not tell me what it is, and I never ask him what he's doing, what he's writing, because it's his creative process. But it does show up at home.
I think there's a great danger in talking your story that you're doing out instead of writing it. I think a lot of writers are guilty of it. And I've always felt until it's done, when it's ready, Naomi's the very first person always who reads it. But until it's done, I don't want to talk about it because somehow I feel that by stopping the privacy of that process, I can hurt the story. And it's more like superstition than any kind of logical thing, right? But I really feel that. So, you know, I don't like to talk about it. I hole up and I do what I do in my little room, and I appear periodically and then disappear, you know, so thank you for all that endorsement, incidentally. I like that business about making the kids real fast, you know, and all that.
All right, any other questions around the house? No, there's another one. Okay.
Én is magyarul kérdezek, méghozzá a női karakterek kapcsán. Ugye azt tudjuk, hogy férfi embernek nem mindig sikerül mélységében mondjuk megragadni a női karaktereket. Ilyenkor külső segítséget kér, vagy van valahol egy feminin Joe belül, aki ilyenkor segít?
Well, of course, Naomi's a great help with that, you know, just by her presence. But I've known a few women through the years, you know, I mean, I don't forget. You know, I'm gentlemanly, but I never forget. You know, so, and that comes to your aid at those moments. As I noticed, the two of you guys are always asking questions, erotic-natured questions. I think that's very interesting. But
I have a question regarding feedback. It's here.
where is he?
This time only one question regarding feedback.
That's what you promised last time.
Once you have a screenplay finished, do you have a group of writers or friends or trusted ones who read it for you and give you feedback, and then you consider their suggestions or their feedback? What do they like? What do they have questions about? Or you just basically, you are at a point where you wrote it and then it's done until the studio or a producer gives you some particular notes?
Listen, I don't even trust my wife with the reaction. I give her the script and I say, you better like this, okay? This is really good, you better like this. And in terms of giving it to other people, no, I don't. It's done to the best of my ability at the time, and then it goes to the studio or the producer. And if they're forthcoming and good people, you hear from them quickly. There are those, and Andy's like that. Andy always very fast, gives you his opinion, tells the truth. But there are a lot of passive-aggressive players, and sometimes you hand a script in and you don't hear for a month, right? And no response. And your agent goes after and they say, well, we're still reading and talking and all of that stuff. The duplicity in Hollywood is staggering, and people behave sometimes and not in a very decent manner. And I have a great problem with that. But having said that, there are also many other people who really behave decently and are forthright, and they tell you what they think. You know, so.
It seems that I do have to have the second one, though. My question would
That's
be
good. That's
regarding young writers,
yes.
Who are not as secure in their craft as you are. Would you recommend that they build a supporting group around themselves and share their first drafts and get feedback from each other, or get feedback from anybody, and consider rewrite before they send out to producers or distribution companies? Do you think that this feedback can provide additional help for a young writer?
No, I wouldn't recommend that. The reason is, I think that, look, if you finish the script, you've written it to the best of your ability, and then you put everything you have into it. Okay, so if you finish the script, then give it to whomever you're going to give it to, whether it's a producer or a studio. But to open yourself up with a group of friends to all kinds of other possibilities, jealousies, all of those kinds of things that could affect their opinion about the script, it seems to me that could be self-defeating, and it could wind up hurting you instead of helping you. I think every writer, and I include myself, even after there's 17 scripts and all these years, when you finish, you're really insecure about it. You know, and no matter the successes you've had, you're insecure about it. Is this good? You know, and that's why I was only half kidding about saying to Naomi, "You better like this. This is wonderful." And I think that's a normal reaction. So I truly wouldn't suggest doing that, because I think it can wind up hurting you.
Anyone else? Way in the back.
Yes.
Well, have the microphone so they can translate your question.
Do you do any research before you start writing in the environment or the place you're actually?
Yes. Depending on the project. At Music Box, you know, I did a terrific amount of research in Mauthausen and in Dachau and Mauthausen, in the Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, and then in Washington, D.C. with the Justice Department. And I spoke to historians. The piece necessitated a lot of factual research before I could begin writing it. Some pieces, like Basic, as I said, the research came through the years of interviewing people, and then I felt I was ready to write at a certain point. Betrayed about the neo-Nazis. I went up to a white racist jamboree under a false name. I talked to people who were in the group, and it needed that same kind of effort. Jagged Edge, I tried to base it on the former publisher who fired me, so I didn't need all kinds of research. So it depends on the piece, you know, very, very much. But in my mind, research is always good. And I will repeat to you what I said earlier today, that it's really great advice, and that's the only reason I'm repeating it, is the director, Alan Pakula, he and I did a piece on the Alaska pipeline. And I went up to Alaska and went down to Louisiana to speak to the pipeline workers and wrote the script right after the research. And Alan didn't like it, and he said, look, this is what you have to do, and it's great advice. He said, learn everything you can about the subject, and then forget all about it and use your imagination. And I think that's great advice.